John, what's up, man? How's it going?
It's okay, yeah. It's nice here. The weather's good. Sun's out. Perfect
Yeah,
climate. You
you're in
know,
Spain, right?
I'm in Madrid.
Madrid. Oh, that's
I'm in the
awesome.
capital, yeah. And we've just had some holidays, so everybody's quite relaxed, and so it's quite nice. It's quite
Nice.
nice.
When did you move to Madrid?
I lived in Birmingham. Well, the suburbs of Birmingham, a place called Telford, and it wasn't really a difficult decision to move, to be honest. I just kind of
Yeah.
like the Mediterranean lifestyle, and I don't speak much Spanish, but I just kind of wing it really with them, and
Yeah,
I quite like the life here.
that's
It's hot.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's why I want to move to the desert at some point, like
The
Arizona or
desert.
something. So
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, the heat, especially in like Madrid, must be hot.
Yeah, well, it's warming up now. In fact,
Yeah.
this is the best time. This is actually the best time because you still, uh, the weather's beautiful, but you've still got enough leeway to do something. During July and August, it gets just so hot then that you're just moving from one air conditioning area to another. It gets that hot. But this time you can go cycling, fishing, you can do everything during the day still. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
perfect weather. It's kind of in season, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. How far away are your bandmates?
um, the the bass player, he lives in Madrid.
Okay.
So he lives in Madrid. The new guys in the
Yeah.
group, and the guitarist lives in Madrid. I don't know where he lives in Madrid though. So, but he does live in the Madrid region. So you've got the city and you've got the region,
Uh-huh.
and so we just meet up the rehearsal rooms really. But he's never told me where he lives. I
Let's
don't
just
start
meet
thinking,
here at this time.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
yeah.
He turns up, to the rehearsals, but I don't know where he lives.
Well, that's awesome. And that's cool to hear because I know a few bands were like, bandmates are in different continents. And I wasn't sure if you moved, but a few people stayed, or a few of the new guys are in other regions, but that's cool. And that must really
Yeah.
help.
Well, yeah. What happened was pre the pandemic. We had the original lineup. I was working with
Yeah.
the guys from Telford, and we didn't really rehearse or anything. So because we're just in two different areas, 800
Yeah.
miles away. So we turn up at a concert, a festival, and the sound check would be the rehearsal if there was one. And then we do it like that. But
Wow.
as a three piece, you could get away with it. It's just you feeling like you got your balls in a vice because it's like, oh, I haven't rehearsed. So you go through all this kind of mental shit before you
Yeah.
on stage. But after a couple of songs, there's no problem.
It's
So.
never a problem. Like it's just like you guys just rehearse and you're in it.
Yeah, yeah. So now we do a rehearsal for a festival because everybody lives in Spain. So I think the drummer he lives in the place where they make wine, Rioja, this
Wow.
area, this province. I've never been to his house either, but he turns up, and we do rehearse. We do actually go through stuff. We've got a set, and we try and play new songs now. So
Cool.
we're not really relying on the internet and trying to when we get together in the hotel room type thing. It's
Yeah.
you
That's so
get
funny, man.
psyched up for it now and do it. So
Wow.
you're from Boston, aren't you?
Yes, Boston. Yeah.
Boston.
So a few miles away.
Yeah, yeah. Boston.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And you guys have been to the States a couple times too.
Yeah, we did. We did back
Yeah.
in the 90s. We used to tour. We toured with Deicide, with the
Yes.
Satanist Deicide. Yeah, and
Yeah, the
Demolition Harry.
Satanist. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's great. Great fun.
How was
Yeah.
it going to the States for the first time, especially with bands like Deicide and seeing what Florida's doing and everything? It must have been pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, well, we had our own scene in Europe, but it wasn't. It's always slightly different, isn't it, in the States? So we kind
Yeah.
of we went over there and we were playing to some big shows. It was like the eye opening was the size of the halls and the size of the theatres that we were playing in.
Mm.
It was like I remember the first time I played. Well, I think the second time I played the Milwaukee Metal Fest. I think that was the real eye opener. I think
Yeah, that's a big festival.
there was some stuff on YouTube. There was a video of that. Some of that of us playing Undrawn and Quartered. I got nervous watching it. Because I was thinking back to the time. I was like, oh my god, I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Wow.
yeah.
Well, yeah, you guys have such an extensive history. And I do want to kind of go back. So, like, what was your like true introduction to metal? Was it like British new wave stuff? Was it thrash?
Yeah, I was just going along with the guys at school really at that
Oh
time.
yeah.
I was still at school, and I used to listen to punk rock. To be honest, I came in from there because punk was still kind of going at that point, and I used to think that with heavy rock and heavy metal, it was something that I didn't really know much about, and I got into Motorhead and then AC/DC, and then Venom, purely by accident, were played on the radio. I think they played
Wow.
Warhead and Venom. It was done for a charity thing. Actually, it was played on the
Charity.
yeah, it was played on the
Venom.
breakfast show. Yeah, I think some rock DJ betted, and the DJ at the time, I think his name was Mike Reed, and he played it on the breakfast show. He played the song Warhead, and
Huh.
I was going through puberty at the time, so I was like, oh, fucking hell, that's quality,
I'll
that
do
is, you know. So
it.
I was within a few years, I actually went to see them at the Birmingham Odeon when they played with Exodus.
Oh,
And so I was at that show, and that was my baptism really into the the hellfire.
yeah.
And
That's
it
that's
was, it was
awesome.
enough of an influence for me to think, well, what am I going to do with my life? At the time, because there was the one direction of doing what like a lot of people were doing in Telford, which was just getting jobs, because we had like an industrial revolution at the time in our local area. A lot of
Yeah.
factories came in, a lot of interest from Asia, China, Taiwan. And of course, you could see where you were going in school. It's like they're going
Oh God. Yeah.
to railroad you into that, and I got railroaded in. I needed money, and but I started playing. Bass to start with, and then I played guitar.
Okay. So this
And
was after you saw Venom.
well, actually, yeah, I was still at school when I saw Venom, and when I left school, I was able to earn money to buy instruments. So so I could like, and I wanted to play. I wanted to play guitar, and I was playing bass, but I wanted to play guitar after a while, and express myself that way. So,
Wow. So when did you want to like officially like form a band? Or like when did
oh
Cancer officially start?
yeah, it was. We had a I played with in people's bedrooms, to start with.
To
You
start?
meet people. Yeah, I mean you meet people. Back then, I'd meet people at concerts, and they'd have like a perfectly embroidered Celtic Frost logo on the back of their. I'd be like, wow, them. So I didn't really know many people, but I knew them through the concerts of the more kind of the heavy metal concerts that were going on in the area by the local bands. And I'd meet up with them, and we'd go for a couple of beers or something like that. And then so I'd come back to mine and play a bit of guitar, and somebody's playing a bit of bass, and anyway, with Cancer, we had an idea that actually, because I knew Ian Buchanan from school,
Okay.
and we knew Carl from another, from another group. He was playing in another group at the time, and we heard through the grapevine that he was interested in playing something a bit more extreme. So we set up a jam. I'll never forget it. So I took my Marshall head and the cab, and we set it up, and it was in a place called Ironbridge, which is like this historic village where they built the first iron bridge. So it's like a tourist area.
Okay.
Anyway, we had a jam, and there was something there. My Marshall amp went into meltdown, and it was never to work again.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought that's a pretty good omen,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good sign.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So it was strange because from then on, we went to do a demo. So we managed to get 2 songs together, and we went to do a demo in Birmingham, and I had to use a bass amp to record the guitar.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah. So I had to use a bass amp with like a homemade distortion pedal, courtesy of Ian Buchanan, actually. So it was like
that's awesome.
I don't know how he made it, but I mean, he made this distortion pedal. It was all homemade.
It's very DIY.
Yeah. I just didn't have I had a guitar, but I just didn't have, when your amp blows up, and it was the only amp. It's like,
yeah.
What am I going to do? So, well, wow. I'll use the bass amp. So that's how we got quite a sound with it for the demo. I mean, listen to it back now, and it's wow, yeah,
yeah. But sounds like a demo,
Yeah, absolutely. So that's basically how it started. So it was very cool. Motivated. But after listening to those, I got into. Metallica came out, and the Bay Area thrash thing, was coming out, and so it was like the Megadeths, Exodus, stuff like that. It was like very exciting. Nuclear Assault from the East Coast, and, so we're all kind of like in with the thrash movement from North America, and with the Latin Americans, you got Sepultura as well, which was quite
brutal, awesome.
Come over, and they did quite well, for that,
Yeah, they did. You were big into the German thrash scene too, right?
Yeah,
like Destruction, Sodom.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I love those bands more than the bands love them. But I can remember the first time I listened to Sodomy and Lust, and songs like Curse the Gods by Destruction.
Yeah.
Well, Voivod as well, Killing Technology. It was almost like back then there was an album every week. No wonder I didn't have any money for any equipment, because I was just buying records all the time. So
that's awesome.
Every week there was an album, back then, and it was always never disappointed.
Yeah. The 80s was just a gold mine for a lot of these scenes, and that's interesting. And I'm curious, like, so you guys like rehearsed, you're like, all right, let's do a thing. Let's put out a demo. So, who came up with the name Cancer?
Yeah, we used to knock about. We used to hang out with a friend from Newcastle. Well, he was from Newcastle, but he lived in Telford, but he had that Geordie accent. Yeah. And he liked to drink a lot, and he was great. He was into Judas Priest and AC/DC, and so we had the rapport with him. And he said, "Why don't you call your band Cancer? You'll get noticed." And like the more the sauce was going down, the more the drink was going down. We're like, "Oh man, that's." You can look at it one way or look at it the other way. And, people are going to, associate the band and look at us and take a negative, perception of it. Feel, well, yeah, okay.
It's a brutal name. You know?
It was at the time,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you remember like the first reception, like maybe doing your first gig or whatever, and be like, "Hello, we're Cancer." Do you remember like people reacting to that, or like telling people like your band name for the first time? Was there
Yeah, I
any
mean,
shock or
with the heavy metal or the metal crowd, nobody really cared really. We didn't really get any kind of, people just accepted it, I think.
yeah,
The classic thing was that, I mean, you go to, go over to play America, you go and play the Milwaukee Metal Fest, and you take a flight to JFK, and then you take a connecting flight maybe to Chicago or Milwaukee, and somebody is band. Oh, you're playing a band, And so, what's the name of your group? And you say, "Well, yeah, it's called Cancer," and that's it. That's the end of the conversation. There's not much more.
yeah.
Nothing else happening there. Yeah. Oh well.
That's so funny. Yeah, yeah. Definitely, you definitely find the metal fans in that conversation, you know. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
So they see the hair, and they think, well, yeah, he plays in the band. You've got to play. Go and ask him. Go and ask him. What's the name of your group? Cancer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It did work though, it did turn some heads.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you remember Cancer's first show?
Yeah, I do
Ever
actually. It
played
was.
as Cancer? How'd that go?
Yeah, I think we played to about 20 people.
Oh yeah. Was it in like a basement?
It was in a. It's kind of like a rock complex club. So they had it was a club, but we had different rooms everywhere. But that night, it was the thrash metal night, or the extreme metal nights, how they, kind of promoted it.
Yeah.
And we played it with a group called Bomb Disneyland. What was the name of the group?
Bomb Disneyland?
Bomb Disneyland.
And were they death metal?
Them. Oh, they were thrash metal.
Wow.
Kind of thrash metal at the time.
Yeah.
Didn't play with them again, really.
Yeah, quite a lot of interesting names coming out of that scene. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Bomb Disneyland.
Bomb Disneyland. Yeah. So we played that. That was our first show. And then I think we played a show with UK Subs, which was a punk band, to some kind of like fierce looking skinheads. And they were like looking at us, as you, I don't know,
Yeah.
quite an aberrated way, really. They were,
three genres collide right there.
Yeah, I don't think they. Well, that was the second show, I think, with UK Subs, and we played with Benediction before they'd recorded, and we played with another group called Prolapse as well, which was quite interesting. Yeah, it's the name of your group.
That's
Prolapse.
Awesome.
Yes. So we didn't feel quite so bad about the name Cancer.
Yeah,
that. I mean,
that's awesome.
So anyway, so we did these shows, and then we recorded to the Gory End. We recorded it with Scott Burns from Florida. Got him over to England, took him to this studio in the middle of nowhere. Absolutely in the middle of nowhere. It's just sheep fields and mountains. No escape, no Starbucks, nothing.
Complete isolation.
Yeah, he had to stay there for 4 days and record Cancer. And that's how he did the first album. He mixed it in Florida, but
okay.
It was all recorded.
How long did you said it took like 3-4 days to just do
4
everything?
days, yeah.
4 days? How long did it take to write?
Few months.
Few months.
Yeah. When we got signed with that demo, because we got signed off our first demo, obviously then, record company was saying, come on, we want to do this. And we felt motivated to, write. And during that whole time, we would get the bus to Birmingham and to meet the other groups, you know, to have a few beers with them. And there was this cinema that used to play uncut horror films and gore movies. So it was like video nasties at the time in the 80s. And a lot of the inspiration for the first album came from that. You know, you can see it like
Really?
the influence. Yeah, like the front cover is from the Dawn of the Dead scene, George Romero.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's
Um,
cool.
Into the Acid was taken from the film RoboCop, the first one.
Nice.
But, you know,
That's awesome.
you know, a bit of, you know, I think his Body Count was about Friday the 13th, which was like the slasher films at the time. So that's where our heads were when we weren't drinking.
Yeah.
watching these kind of films, and I think with those type of films, they kind of provoke you to write more extreme metal anyway, because I don't see how it's going to work too much. I know Alice Cooper can get away with it, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But it does sound a bit more convincing if it's complete out and out gore, that you want something with, you know, a little bit more of an extreme sound with it.
Yeah, well, especially writing brutal music, you know, getting that brutal imagery as well must be very inspiring to like lyrics or song ideas.
Yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand with it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was the metal scene like in your area at that time?
Well, in Telford, apart from what we were doing, there wasn't much. There wasn't anything.
Okay.
But in Birmingham, there was you know, there was quite a lot going on, you know. But with like the punk scene, the crossover scene at the time, you had bands like English Dogs playing, then you know, bands from America coming over, and there was the you know, the thrash bands. I mean, Metallica were coming over to play, and Exodus, like I said before, with Venom and Anthrax, Megadeth, they all came over. So those were like the shows. But there was the underground shows as well. And in Birmingham, there was something, you know. So, you know, you could go and see Godflesh or, you know, Napalm Death back then, you know, in a small club, you know, type thing.
Cool. So what made you, what made you guys record Death Shall Rise in the US then?
Yeah, I think it was the thought of going to America, really. For me, it was the first time I went to America, and I met Scott Burns. So, you know, I knew what I was going into. That was the thing with, I already met the producer.
Yeah.
So, you know, I thought, yeah, it'd be great. But, you know, all through the sessions to the Gory End, you know, I thought, well, perhaps we could have recorded it in America. You know, it would have been nice, you know. But with Death Shall Rise, we went over there, and we were still a three-piece at the time. And you know, I'd recorded, you know, the rhythms of the songs, and you know, because we were there, you know, by chance, you know, an accident, James Murphy came along. You know, he came to play some solos as a guest to start with, and then he kind of like got more. How would you like to play the rest of the leads? So, you know, do the rest then, James, and go over to Europe and play some shows. You know, so it kind of went from there. Really
cool. Wow.
It was an experience. We were in the studio with Morbid Angel. They were doing the Blessed of the Sick album. So that's awesome. Morris Sound had like two rooms. It had like the one studio and the other studio, and I think what they did was they recorded in the one studio and then moved everything in the other one for the mixing. So they were mixing when we were recording.
Yeah, how did that take longer? Was it more or less than the 4 days for the last record?
Oh well, wow. We had I think we had a week or 2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. When it went up. I think the record company, because we were signed to a small English London record label, an indie record label at the time. You know, they had bombed Disneyland on the label, So, but but they, it was based around a shop actually. So they had like this kind of like grassroots shop where they used to sell very expensive vinyls and T-shirts, and very rare stuff. And but they had a record company as well, and they signed Cancer for their first album, and we ended up doing another 2 albums with them. But
Yeah,
Death Shall Rise was an experience. Yeah, certainly an experience.
Totally. How long did it take to write that record?
I think it was we had a while where we didn't write anything. So it was like I think it was just like we just didn't bother writing anything because we started playing shows, and after you'd done your after you did your first album, you started playing to people. Then you started playing to a number of people, instead of the one man and his dog. You started playing to people, So we kind of played some live shows, did some gigs, down in London, played some, basic things really. And then, we were writing after, I think it took a few months, and then we started writing again. So it was a little stint of inactivity.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Okay. Like between the first 2 records. Because it's like if you're putting out a record, it's like I'm just enjoy the material, play it, enjoy the new venues. So yeah, it makes sense. Death Shall Rise is a amazing record with very iconic cover art too. Where does that cover art come from? What's the story of getting that made?
Yeah, I don't really know, to be honest. I don't really know. I've always, I thought about this. The bass player Ian Buchanan was into kind of Man of War at the time.
Oh, really?
Like yeah. So I think there was that, those kind of heavy metal covers that
muscular guy.
Yeah. Frank Frazetta type thing, where you got this real, fantasy heavy metal art. And I thought at the time it'd be cool to do something, it'd be cool to do something like that. And I think we all kind of like went along with that, really.
Yeah, but, and time told, like it's a great cover. Man of War was definitely, had something with those covers because they're cool. Just the muscular with the whatever he's holding.
Yeah. Promotes rippling muscles and strength.
Yeah. Pretty awesome. So after Death Shall Rise, you guys, why'd you guys switch producers?
Yeah, we went on tour with Deicide in America, and we did some other tours in Europe. So we did a lot of traveling, and for the third album, we thought it'd be, interesting to do a record with an English producer that had just done the Paradise Lost album, Shades of God, and the record company thought it was a good idea, and I thought it was a good idea as long as we keep the thrash in there, But I think it was a case of we're going to come over to America again and going to keep going over in this. And I think it was at that time we just wanted to, see what this guy Simon Effamy could do.
Totally. Yeah.
So this was
well, the next record's awesome too, Sins of Mankind. So I feel like it's a little more technical than the last record. Was this a choice going into the record? Was this a natural evolution of the songwriting?
Yeah, well, I mean, the kind of like the American influence had worn off onto us, being in the studio with Morbid Angel, we could going on tour with the Satanist Deicide. So we're kind of into that kind of bit more technical thing. So that we kind of got a bit of influence from that. You understand?
Yeah.
So it was that, you know, and I've always loved so we talked about the German thrash metal, and I was listening to a lot of that at the time, you know. So
Yeah, you can totally hear that in that, like the very technical, like the very destruction-esque,
yeah,
influence. So how do you guys get signed to East West for a Black Faith?
Black Faith. Well, that was
95.
that was through Simon Efferley.
Okay.
Kind of, we were going to sign to Bronze Records, which Bronze Records was the original record label for Motorhead. You know, for those iconic albums. And we went down there and met the guy down at the studio. So we still used his studio, and but East West got interested, and over here they've got Pantera on their label, and so I mean they were looking for a British band. So you know, it was an experience because we recorded in a place called Great Linford Manor, which has got I think it was the Wish You Were Here Pink Floyd desk.
Oh,
Recording
really?
desk. Yeah, all analog. It's a huge desk, you know.
Yeah,
And,
wow.
it's one of these studios with like tennis courts and, you know, pool room, you know, all in-house catering, you know. You really do feel, you know.
Yeah, that must be eye-opening. Especially like, just talking about, early Cancer playing in like a room blowing your amp or whatever. And now it's like, oh my God, that's the Wish You Were Here desk right there. Like, what happened? How do we get here? So that must have been a huge moment for you guys.
It was actually, the Black Faith. Because
totally.
back then, I mean, I was in my 20s and I was, you know, kind of I guess I was still biting for ambition a bit, you know, trying to get a bit out of it, you know, instead of just accepting my place in heavy metal, I was still trying to, you know, push forward, you know, and I think we all were at the time. So it was it's shown on the production of that album. It's it's a big production.
Definitely. Now, is the pressure from East West, was that the reason the band split up?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean,
just such a big label, probably demanding.
Well, the problem is when you start getting into that arena of things, and it all gets a bit. People starts getting a bit competitive, and instead of kind of seeing life and everything, as the way it is, it's almost like you start getting this rivalry, with not with your band members so much, but with other groups and that, and you want to try and do be a bit more competitive at the time. So, but it all went very bad. That did.
Yeah, unfortunately. So at least we're in a better place now. And this was many, many years ago. And I feel like metal as a whole was kind of changing a lot by then, because this is like 95, 96. What's your thoughts on the evolution of the genre so far? Because it's changed quite a lot since Cancer started. Have you been like keeping track of like current bands and the evolution of like death metal at all?
Well, I listen to bands that I play with. That's all I can do, really. That's the time I can allow it, really.
Yeah.
Because I got family and things to sort out. So I mean, but I've seen it, the evolution going, in a certain way, and there's a lot of very technical players and a lot of technical groups, I think, and it's interesting. But I mean, I think that just shows you how the evolution of recording has gone.
Yeah.
So in the old days, when you played with these analog formats, you have to play everything in. So, you know, and I think nowadays, I think it's just a bit easier that people just cut and paste it, and, you know, they've become very technical.
Yeah. Now you just plug your guitar into the computer, you know,
Mm.
it's like, there you go. You have a single out. It's really crazy how the landscape's completely changed
Mm.
since like the 80s, obviously. That's cool. That's interesting though. And yeah, like you have a lot on your plate and you've already done the rounds. You know, you've earned your say.
Yeah.
Now Cancer, you guys have been around so long at this point. Do you have any favorite memories or stories just being on the band, touring with DSI, just all the antics of just being in a death metal band? Is there any
Mm.
stories you can recall of those days and even modern, you know?
Yeah. Gosh, well, not very good with stories. But, yeah, I mean, we played I played a show with Napalm Death and Godflesh in Birmingham. That was a real eye opener, because you got like quite diverse groups at one show. Because
Yeah.
Napalm Death back then were kind of, they were still playing stuff off Scum and.
Yeah.
Uh,
What year was this around?
This is in the late 80s.
Okay.
Late 80s. They'd done From Enslavement to Obliteration,
Yeah.
and it was with the old lineup, Bill Steer and Lee Dorian singing.
Wow.
And there was Godflesh as well. I'd never seen Godflesh before, and I saw them, you know, they turned up with this drum machine. It's diverse, you know, and then there was the death metal to the Gory End Cancer style as well. So
Yeah.
it's curious, you know.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, that's huge, man. And that's so cool. You know, unfortunately,
Quite
I wasn't around
diverse.
for them.
Yeah, it was quite
Yeah.
diverse, you know. And still back then, there was, you know, a lot of people heard about music through tape trading. So that's how it was done, you know, because we didn't have internet. You couldn't like,
Yeah.
people used to tape trade. Must have been fantastic for the post office, you know.
Totally. Was Cancer big into that? Were you guys trying to just get your demo everywhere through tape
Well,
trading?
we got the demo. We just went for a record company with the
Okay.
first demo,
Yeah.
and I think the demo eventually got distributed, and it did get out. You know,
Yeah.
it's funny
Yeah.
because I mean some of that stuff's been re-released, you know, and people want to put it out. You know, I mean
Cool.
it's, you know.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. So it's 2023, you know, we're here right now. Is there anything in the works? Is there anything fans can look forward to in terms
Well,
of
I'm just gonna,
the band?
because I've yeah, we've just been in the studio and recorded a
Oh,
couple of songs, and we've done a re-dip of Into the Acid. So,
okay.
you know,
Cool.
off the first, but with the new lineup, and a brand new song called Enter the Gates, which is about transhumanism into with technology.
That's
So it's
awesome. Very, you know, especially in this day and age, very
yeah,
cool.
it comes in with the perceptive angle of what the control, the minds behind the smart surveillance systems are not asking us if we want them, you know, and what they want,
Yeah.
you know. So it's a bit raw on the knuckle, that, for, you know, old schoolers like me, you know. That
Yeah.
old punk rock attitude that I had, you know, seems to come back a bit when I
Cool.
hear about, you know, top down hierarchies and control and things like that. It kind of grates me a
Awesome.
bit. So
Well, we love to hear it. Cancer's always kind of had some socially aware lyrics, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like it's a bit of a balance between the like brutality of like, you know, of course the RoboCop references and whatnot, but there are also like is some socially aware lyrics. So that is cool. And I guess that is some of your punk side coming out,
yeah,
you know?
coming out, yeah. So,
Now, yeah,
on the Shadow Gripped album, that was kind of like let's say a snapshot back from those early Cancer albums, because lyrically there was some social issues on there, like Crime So Vile, about the horrendous paedophilia that's going on in the church and all this stuff, and just say, selling organs to pay your debts. I don't know if you know about that, organ harvesting.
yes, yeah.
The type of thing that's going on, where if you get into severe debt, you can sell a kidney, and so there are social things, but we did keep to the classic of Down the Steps was about the Exorcist scene, where the director goes through the window and down the steps. You don't actually see that on the film, but that's where the copper, the policeman gets involved, isn't it?
Yeah.
So down the steps.
Cool. Yeah.
The last track was we did a track about Dennis Nielsen, who was a serial killer in North London during the 80s, and it was called Disposer, because he got caught because of the he couldn't dispose of the body parts without alerting the neighbours. That tongue-in-cheek comedy side to the gore, is part
of course,
of the mark as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What have you thought about how you would put out like future material? Would you put out just another EP, a full length, as just a single?
Well, we've got an album in the waiting. It
awesome.
just needs recording, and finding a suitable studio in the next few months with air conditioning. That's the problem. It's going to get very hot here.
Yeah. So,
got to get the right conditions. So the ideas are written. It's just a case of arranging it with the group. And then,
that's awesome. Do you have like a window when you're trying to have this like officially out to the public?
Well, it's hopefully recorded, mixed and mastered before the end of the year.
Awesome.
So
that's cool.
Before the end of the year. So
very exciting. Now it's cool that some of your older records, I think the first 3 albums were recently reissued on vinyl.
Yeah.
Would you give the vinyl treatment to like the new album at all?
Yeah. Well, it's on Peaceville.
Perfect.
Peaceville, they're very much interested in the vinyls. They do this. I don't know much about vinyls, but they've got these. They tend to use the weight of the plastic as being the selling point of the quality of the pressing. So I don't know anything about that on the CD generation. So.
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, well, Peaceville reissued the first 3 Cancer records.
Yeah.
So that's cool. It's interesting to hear. Well, vinyl's been rough lately because it's like a 9-month waiting period.
Oh God.
For some of the records, you can put an album out, but it's like, all right, now you have to wait 9-10 months for it to officially, just because it's so the industry is just kind of like overflowing with artists, because it's kind of like in right now, like vinyl's kind of make a little bit of a comeback. So
yeah, I think people want, it's highly collectible, and I think people want that type of format, because you got a record, you've got something to look at. I mean, the only reason why I don't use records is because I'm not very good at keeping them. Like the needle would jump across the skewer on a lake, so just like jump across. But I have heard tremendous sound systems with vinyl, and especially when it's a good sounding production on the vinyl. So,
totally, man.
I love the old Sabbath albums, Volume 4 and Masters of Reality. It was made for vinyl.
Absolutely. on Vertigo too. Just
Yeah,
amazing, amazing. Yeah, I'm a pretty big vinyl collector, as you can see.
I can see. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's funny what you're saying about like Take Care of Records, because it's so funny because like I can find like pristine like thrash metal first presses, and they're usually pretty good. But any
Mm.
of those death metal records that are early are just beat to shit.
Yeah,
So I think it was just something about the scene or the people where they just did not
yeah,
care. I guess more of a CD era, I guess.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was because like the thrash scene was all vinyls at the time when that came out. So the Mad Butcher Destruction, the Mad Butcher EP was released on a picture disc along with the
Cool.
Sodom, Sodomy and Lust, and they were really good pressings as well. I remember, you could get the all the Venom albums on picture disc as well
Yeah.
as the singles, and Celtic Frost as well. You could get Morbid Tales picture disc, which was quite nice. But it was very much that was what you bought, and then the
Yeah.
CDs came along, and then we had the downloads, and then
And
nobody made.
cassettes too.
Yeah, well, they were useful at the time if you had a stereo in the car.
Yeah, yeah. That was more just for
Yes.
the car, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the
yeah.
format, and of course Sony Walkmans, which were
Mm.
used cassettes as well. So that'll be the
Yeah,
next
such a different
one.
era of music.
Mm,
Yeah.
so.
Well, listen, man, as we wrap up here, what's the best way for fans to keep in touch with everything cancer? Updates, dates, new music, social media, website.
Well, I don't know much about social media.
Okay.
It's being done for me by the bass player. He gets involved in that.
Okay.
So there's the cancer, the website. I think there's a Facebook page as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not very good with telephones, and as you saw with the computer, I'm not very good with
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Fair
You
enough,
know,
man. Yeah, it's just the battle with technology never ends.
it is, yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's always something new as well, isn't there? There's always something new with it. So I can remember the MySpace pages, as if it was just yesterday, and all of a sudden it's changed again. So
Yeah, I can't really keep up with it personally. And it's not like I was born after the internet too. So it's like, it's just going too fast for me. Some of these new innovations and updates, I just cannot. Especially with Zoom, it took me so long to just figure everything out. But yeah, man, John, thank you so much for coming on, man. This
no,
is
pleasure,
fun.
absolute
Thank you
pleasure.
so much, man. I'm Brandon Battick, and this is Disturbing the Priest.
It's death! I've just seen death!